Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Mindset. In this particular episode, I am talking about the basics of Atropa with Whitney and her mastermind group, Queen of Millions. So, in her Crypto 101 course, she invited me on to talk about the Atropa ecosystem and Pulsechain and the consciousness and mindset around Pulsechain and how that is the key alpha. There was a lot of things, even as I was talking, I was like impressed with some of the things that I said, in all honesty. So, there is new stuff here. It's at a very slow pace. So if you're still new, if you're still learning, or even if you're an expert in the Atropa ecosystem, I would recommend checking out this video. I would also recommend checking out the link in the description. Just simply go to that link. If you hang around on the website for 30 seconds, there'll be an Easter egg for you. And that Easter egg is going to be there only for about another 30 days. So with that, let's get into the chat.
So thank you, Stephen, for coming here. So grateful to have you here. And also, I'm so curious with just the topics that we'll be exploring today as well. For you guys just to know, Stephen and I met through Pulsechain, both investors, and Stephen is a very active YouTuber and live streamer. We've live streamed on a few meditation and mindfulness series together. And I've always enjoyed your perspective around how you bring the consciousness touch to Pulsechain into crypto and the different avenues that you talk about within Atropa, which is a subset of Pulsechain. So I'd really love to hear, I know that part of the reason everyone comes on is to help deepen their conviction and see more things that live within the Pulsechain space as well and how the crypto world operates. So I'd really just love for this to be a space for you to nerd out a little bit deeper with us on these topics and share your wisdom. We can go into some topics and whatever else comes through at this time.
Sounds good. Yeah. So just out of curiosity, how experienced is everyone in crypto?
Hey, Randy. So everyone's gone through my 101 program, been in the space for a few months now, except Kimber, who's a little bit more. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
All Pulsechain investors.
Okay. So this is everybody's first cycle, you would say?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So one of the big differences with the Atropa ecosystem is that it's actually an ecosystem of tokens. So when you have something like Ethereum or really any other blockchain besides Pulsechain, all the tokens, the way that you buy them through what are called liquidity pools. So for example, if you want to buy a token on Solana or Ethereum, normally what you would do is you would get some Ethereum first, and then with that Ethereum, you would buy another token. So basically you're going through a liquidity pool of Ethereum and this other token. And then there'll be thousands of these kinds of examples of Ethereum and other tokens. And the way that those kind of cryptos work is it's just like a one-way street. It's just an interconnection between two tokens this way. So what actually happens is if the price goes big in one direction, it can only really come out in the other direction. The difference between that and what's happening on Pulsechain is that everything is interconnected like a web. And people these days actually are starting to refer to it as a neural network, which is also really, really cool. This is like the new way people have started to refer to it. So what that means is the way that price moves in the Pulsechain ecosystem and the Atropa ecosystem is quite different. So again, going back to an Ethereum example, what might happen is if you're buying one token in Ethereum, it might just be that token that's going up and everything else is kind of staying the same. Whereas with the Atropa ecosystem, because they're all interconnected with each other, basically all that needs to happen is just one of them needs to go up. So the big narrative is this Dai Stablecoin, pDAI. So everybody's basically really going into this narrative that this Dai Stablecoin can eventually get to $1. And so all that needs to happen is all the money just needs to flow into that. But because that's connected to everything else through liquidity pools, it brings up the whole ecosystem with it. And there's over 100 tokens as well. So it's making it a very unique cryptocurrency experience with so many different kinds of opportunities. And so there's all these different communities that are forming around all the different tokens, and you can trade between the different tokens. So there's just so many different ways to look at it now. And it also presents it in a way that I feel is a lot safer than previous ways of doing crypto, where it's kind of like you're just kind of waiting where everything's going to drop all at once and you got to compete against everybody else to sell that top. Whereas this kind of makes it a bit more of a steady rise and a steady fall. So it kind of cushions each other and moves together.
Okay, this is all great. And can we zoom out a little bit so we can get a little more context? Okay.
Hmm.
So even within, okay, so we have the pulse chain space just to drop people in for a little bit more things. So like we have the pulse chain space, and then even the part that you were talking about with this being an ecosystem. So there's all the different coins that we can play with. Can you talk a little bit about like what an ecosystem and why it's important to have ecosystems within the pulse chain space as well?
Hmm. So,
Like why not just buy PulseX? How does this ecosystem help benefit the pulse chain network more?
hmm. Okay. So, well, first of all, the big power in cryptocurrency is the communities. So having people who are devoted to particular communities is what actually helps it grow. So the more people that like, it all started obviously with Pulsechain, or it started with Hex rather. So Richard Hart with Hex. So because of that, he grew this whole community of people who were devoted to his way of looking at cryptocurrency. Then he created Pulsechain, which expanded out that community and that network to other people. And then so within the Pulsechain community, it started to create all these subsets of communities. And the power of working together, just like everything in nature, makes the overall goal much more achievable. And so, one of the powerful things about, for example, the Atropa ecosystem, the reason why people continuously refer to it as an ecosystem is because it's a combination of tokens that are all together. So, again, going back to the Ethereum example, well, even using Hex as an example. So, 5 years ago, Hex would have just been its own individual token within the whole hundreds and thousands of tokens on Ethereum. Whereas now on Pulse Chain, there's like clusters of tokens that are working together as ecosystems. So it basically just presents an opportunity for more people to find out about it. And also, because the tokens are interconnected, the relationship between them provides unique investment opportunities. And it also creates like an atmosphere of coexistence rather than competitiveness, which is really, really interesting as well. So this is something that's very unique, in my opinion, to Pulse Chain. Having said that, there is competitiveness between the different ecosystems on Pulse Chain. And so because there's these ecosystems that are all, this is my overall way of thinking about it, is because there's these strong ecosystems of, say, like within the Atropa ecosystem, there's over 100 tokens. So all that needs to happen is there's one particular token, that pDAI, that Dai Stablecoin, which can be very loud to the rest of the cryptocurrency world because it's a big narrative. So it has big influencers talking about it, people who've gone on shows with like a million subscribers, and it's really bringing people into the chain as well. So this is one of the really cool things about it. So everything's kind of working together in this really unique way on Pulse Chain. I don't know if that answered your question. Sorry, Whitney. You're just on mute.
I think, yeah, you did a good job at explaining it. I just want to check. Do you guys, did that land for you? Do you understand how Atropa fits into Pulse Chain? Okay, cool, cool, cool. Just context always helps before we like get really far into things. Okay, so next point from here. So some like I'd spoken to them about pDAI and introduced that concept of generally like the whole narrative of like if we have a coin that pegs to $1, then that's obviously a very powerful narrative for Pulse Chain collectively. I really like what you just brought up around the competition. It almost feels like competition versus collaboration
Mm,
in the whole network side of things, and how that collaboration brings a greater energy to lift up the whole Pulse Chain ecosystem. especially when we're living in a world, in the crypto world, where everyone's trying to vie for everyone's capital. Is pDAI okay, so pDAI is the hottest narrative. Can you go into greater details of like what you see around this? Because I know there's also a lot of math that makes it also very alluring.
Okay, so first of all, I'm just going back to square one, you could say. So Pulsechain is a fork of Ethereum. So what that means is everything that was on Ethereum basically got copied and pasted into a new blockchain called Pulsechain. And so all the tokens that were on Ethereum, or a lot of the tokens, not all of them, I think some of them kind of got audited out, but most of them got transported onto Pulsechain. And so one of those was Dai Stablecoin. And so Dai Stablecoin, along with USDC and USDT on Ethereum, are stablecoins. So they're supposed to be pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollar. And so that's what gives like an in and out avenue into crypto, into Ethereum through these stable coins. So when you get to a top of a bull market, people will sell all their Ethereum tokens and put it into stable coins. Now, one of the unique things about Pulsechain is all those tokens started with zero value, just like Pulsechain. Everything started at zero. And then the market basically started moving everything. And then all these narratives started to form. So one of the big narratives that's been, well, now we're over a year into it, is this Dai stablecoin. So obviously it started at zero. At the moment now it's less than 1 cent. I think it's half a cent or under half a cent. And the idea there is that eventually it's going to get to $1. That's what people's belief is, that it's going to get to $1. Now, the math behind how that can actually happen is there's a lot of debate around that. There's a lot of arguments. There's a lot of fighting between people who have that. So people call it pDAI, so Pulsechain Dai, but it's Dai stablecoin. So there's a lot of arguments between the people who believe in it and who've done research, and the people who don't really have it and don't know anything about it. So just like anything, the people who are ignorant of it say it's rubbish, it's a scam, it's going to go to, it's like it's just, everybody's just scamming you. And the people who believe in it are saying, no, there's all this evidence to suggest that this actually can get to $1, and this is going to be like one of the best opportunities you can have in Pulsechain to actually just accumulate these tokens. So a lot of people are trying to accumulate 1 million of these pDAI coins. So at the moment, accumulating 1 million would be, I don't know, somewhere between like 3,000 and 5,000. So the math of how it actually stays at $1 is where the debate is. So at the moment, the way that it's going to get there is with money flowing into it. And then how it stays there, there's a lot of debate around that. So what actually makes it stay 1-to-1 on Ethereum is this protocol called MakerDAO. And basically, I won't be able to explain all the math on that because I'm also like not 100% familiar with it. But one of the things that people are talking about is that contract as well, that MakerDAO contract. It got forked when all of Pulsechain got forked, and somebody took control of that contract at the very start, which means because somebody's taken control of it at the start, if it does get to $1, they can basically turn it on. And then when this Dai stablecoin eventually does get to $1, they can turn on this MakerDAO contract in whatever way that it gets turned on, and then it will stay at $1. So this is the thinking behind it. And in order for this to work, you need collateral. So you need actually, because if you're basically putting money into this $1 to keep it there needs to be like this whole reserve of asset value behind it that protects that $1 value. And a lot of people are theorizing that's what's so important about the Atropa ecosystem is it's creating all this liquidity that's going to back that $1 for it to stay at $1. And so I also believe that that's a potential. So, and I just love it because it's just such a cool narrative. There's nothing like it. Okay, Doge is going to go to 1 million or whatever. Like everyone thinks everything's going to go up, but this is a set target. It's a set goal. It's the only thing that's saying we're going to get to this specific amount. We're going to get to $1. And so it gives this like really clear goal for everybody to kind of focus on. So I still think if we do get to $1, it's going to sell a lot. People, because there'll be people who are just like holding it for the narrative. But if it does get to $1, it's going to create this really interesting scenario where people who really didn't believe in it at all saw that it got to $1. Then if they see something happening in the background where, oh, okay, all of a sudden the MakerDAO got turned on, for example, then it's going to really create all this hype that, oh, wow, it's really possible. So people will be selling, but at the same time, there'll be other people going, wow, it's really possible now. And then they're going to buy it up back to $1. So it's going to create a really interesting future for whenever that happens. And people are speculating that it's going to happen within this bull run.
Okay, interesting. Next, I can see how this all happens and layers in. Do you guys have any other questions directly? I got one message from Randy. Clear math goal. Okay. Clear goal in math, just narrative and speculation. Yeah, manufactured. Okay, cool. Sorry, that didn't drop into the main chat. But even as you're saying this and sharing, I'm curious, can we even just go back to like the origin and I guess like how Atropa got started, if and like the leaders behind it, like why is this a thing in this community?
That to me is one of the more interesting things about it. So normally when a cryptocurrency gets created, there'll be like some kind of front end for it. So there'll be like a Twitter account, a website. Back in the day, so not in this particular cycle, but in the previous cycle, one of the big things were it's called like when the team would be doxed. So you would have like the website with a picture of all the teams, the dev team that actually runs and manages the project. And what people would do like 4 years ago when they were trying to buy cryptocurrency is they would study who the developers were and who the team was, and that would give people the conviction, oh, this project is really good because one of the founders also created this token, so now let's all buy this. So it was one of the metrics that people were using to buy tokens and give them confidence and conviction in what they were buying. Atropa was really made in the shadows. So there's no Twitter account, the dev was completely anonymous, and everything got discovered through exploring the blockchain. So you get people who are really nerd out on this stuff. And this was not something that I ever did. It's something that I learned to do by studying the Atropa ecosystem. Is people started to notice, what's this Atropa coin? What are all these other coins? And then they started to notice, well, hang on, there's Atropa, and Atropa's connected to Pulsechain, but it's also connected to Dai Stablecoin, and it's also connected to this thing called Down and Legal and Teddy Bear and TSFI and TRSI. And so there's all these tokens that it's connected to. This is really unique. This is different. Normally, if this was on Ethereum, it would just be Atropa connected to Ethereum, and that's it. There wouldn't be any other connection. So people started to see all these connections. And then they realized, there's this one wallet that is creating all these tokens. And so you've got your wallet address, which is like, I don't know, 20 letters and numbers. And the end of that wallet address was 414. So then this developer became known as the 414 developer. And then people really started to interact with what was happening on the blockchain. And there became this kind of game of cat and mouse. So as people were learning more, it was almost like the 414 developer was kind of giving them breadcrumbs to help them understand more and more what the Atropa ecosystem was, until eventually they created a token people found the email of this developer, and then they created a token for a really old internet chat protocol called IRC. And then they went onto this IRC, and then all these other people went onto IRC, and that's when this developer introduced themselves to the world, you could say, and then started this whole communication between everybody that was trying to understand it and the Atropa dev, which is the 414 dev, and they went by the name Mariarahel. So there was this whole mystery game thing that was going on, which made it really, really exciting. I wasn't that early. I came in a little bit after that, and then basically the Atropa dev in that IRC chat is still communicating with people on that IRC chat and basically just outlining, what the Atropa ecosystem is, And a lot of things as well which again make it very unique. So for example, because everything's interconnected, one of the tokens is called Teddy Bear, which is like the meme coins. It's like the Shiba Inu, the Doge coin of the Atropa ecosystem. And what they did was they told everyone in the chat, okay, I'm going to start selling Teddy Bear for Hex. Now, if you're on Ethereum, nobody's telling you they're going to start selling Doge or Shiba Inu. They just start selling it, and then you're at a loss. Whereas the dev is like, okay, I'm going to start selling it soon. Basically, telling the market, if you want to sell it, now's a good time to start selling because I'm going to start swapping some into Hex. So there's this really interesting dynamic between the dev and the community, and there was a lot of trust issues, obviously, at the start because that's what cryptocurrency is all about. Like, we still don't know who this developer is. And I started talking about it and finding out about it. And as soon as I started finding out about it, my mind was exploding. And I really trust that instinct of myself when I get really excited about something. My heart is beaming. My mind is like, oh, and I'm so passionate to talk about it. There's something there that I recognize as something aligned with the truth. And one day, the Atropa dev ended up doing a real world meeting with some people in Zurich in Europe. And that's when everything really exploded. So all the people who were like, yeah, we still don't trust the Atropa dev, their perspectives really shifted. This is not to say that everyone's like, oh, okay, the Atropa dev is really trustworthy. There's still people that hate it. But I look at it and like, okay, the people that hate the Atropa dev are part of different communities. And really, cryptocurrency is just all greed. Everybody just wants you to buy the thing that they're in so it can go up. That's really what it all comes down to. So the people who don't like Atropa don't have any Atropa tokens. So they'll say everything bad about it. And the people who do say it's great, they obviously do have the tokens and they want to tell you how good it is so it can make it go up. So
it totally is that gate. And it's just, but then the healthy competition also helps the rivalries, like it's needed in the crypto space too. It's just that constant like banter. There's something going on. There's some saucy drama. Um, it sounds like that's all layers part of this as well.
yes, and even the beauty of something like that, the competition is really good. It does drive innovation, but one of the really beautiful things is because there's these ecosystems they're doing slightly different things, but they're also doing things that are totally unique to Pulsechain. So there's other ecosystems which also have interconnected tokens, like a web of tokens. This is something completely 100% unique to Pulsechain. The only other blockchain that has something similar is Solana, and that's only because people who are fully aware of what's happening on Pulsechain are now trying to also create that on Solana, but it just doesn't work in the same way. The reason why it works so well on Pulsechain is because the gas fees are so low. But the beautiful thing about these competing ecosystems is it's almost like they're kind of, I would I would say the other ecosystem is feeding off Atropa more. Like Atropa is really just doing its own thing, and the dev is really just doing his own thing, and he's got this big goal and this big plan that he's just implementing, just doing no matter what. And there's these other ecosystems which, whether consciously or unconsciously, they're kind of borrowing ideas from it, or just somehow in the global consciousness, they're just picking up these ideas like, oh, why don't we connect these tokens together? And they think, oh, I've just had this amazing idea, but because their consciousness is tied to the pulse chain consciousness, they're getting the inspiration from that. Like it's all this, yeah, this is where it kind of goes like deep into the consciousness side of things, where I kind of like, I guess you could say, more spiritual and metaphysical kind of perspective on it.
Okay, cool. We're going to take a left turn to that right away. Well, right, I have one little pit stop. I did not realize that Pulse Chain, like, I did not realize this was, yes, yes, yes. I did not realize we were the first network besides Solana, really, though, to have coins that were connected together.
Hmm.
I mean, like you see Tangang blowing it up. Tangang is another sub ecosystem for you guys who don't know. But that's another ecosystem, and they have like their cookies and cream and all the different things that come out with an orange and milk, like all these different coins that are like paired together in different ways or create relationships. Is that's also similar to what goes on in Atropa, but it sounds like they copied Atropa. Well, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I wouldn't say, yeah, I don't know. This is the interesting thing, but they would probably say that they just came up with the idea themselves. But my perspective is simply because it was being done on Pulsechain just by virtue of where people get inspiration from, just because their consciousness is already tied to Pulsechain. And so whatever's happening in this kind of field of consciousness to do with Pulsechain is their unconscious mind is connected to it in some way. So yes, 100%, it's completely 100% unique to Pulsechain. And that's why my mind started blowing up when I started learning about this. I was like, this is the only blockchain on the planet that's doing this web of interconnected tokens that are interrelated, they're working together and they're moving together. And so the risks of investing in these coins is mitigated by the fact that they're connected together because they cushion each other. And it's a whole new technology that when it comes to the end of the bull market, let's say you on Ethereum, you hold Doge or Shiba Inu. Again, like I mentioned earlier, there's only one avenue out. So the price will go like this and then it will just collapse very fast. And basically there'll be like 1 to 5% of the people that are really taking all the profit. And then everybody else is at a loss and they'll be caught holding for the next 4 years. With the Atropa ecosystem, because they're all interconnected, the token's not just going to go up and down. It has all these different pathways that it can flow out of. So as it comes from Atropa into Teddy Bear, then all of a sudden Teddy Bear is going up and Atropa is going down. But as Teddy Bear is going up, then other people who have a lot of Teddy Bear are going to go, well, I'm going to start taking Teddy Bear profit into Atropa. And then as Atropa is going up, there might be another token, TSFI. Okay, well, I'm going to take profits from Atropa to TSFI. Then TSFI is going up, and people are saying, well, I'm going to take profits from TSFI to Teddy Bear. So as these things are all like pulling themselves together and moving up and down together. So because everybody has all these different tokens within the ecosystem, it's like this really, it's a very, very unique technology that is 100% unique to Pulsechain. And this is why at the very start, I've been a day one Hexagon, so I've loved Pulsechain. I sacrificed for it, sacrificed for PulseX. But I would hear people be like, "Yeah, Pulsechain is going to be the number one blockchain," and I'm like, "You guys are totally delusional. There's no way. Like we're behind. Ethereum's a lot bigger than us. There's just all these factors. Not everybody likes Richard Hart. He's not their cup of tea." But now I'm like, as I'm learning more and more, I'm like, holy shit, man! Like with this technology, we actually can become the number one blockchain. We actually can, because everything is about protecting your capital. So if you're an investor and you're on Solana right now, okay, yeah, you can make quick gains, but you can also lose everything so quick because you're really competing against people with big money. Whereas here, because there's a web of tokens, if they all perform to the downside better than losing 95% of their value, then it just makes it such an attractive ecosystem to invest in. The whole blockchain is something where it's like, well, it doesn't matter what I choose because all these things are interconnected. I'm never going to lose like 99% of my value. So it just makes it much more attractive. It's very unique and it presents all these different opportunities, which, yeah, are very unique to Pulsechain.
Mm, mm. Interesting. The all of the liquidity flow, like that's I find like anyone who gets into crypto, it's like you're welcomed into the space, and then the next layer, once you start to see more, is just understanding how the money flows in and outward. But then also like the volatility, exactly what you were describing, is like we all want to minimize and minimize whatever our risk. So having those coins be able to hold value against each other is just it's all goes back to, it feels like relationships that is being created within the space to feel like there's something that is actually living in the ecosystem within the network. Okay, cool.
Absolutely. And then because of that, it creates like a whole new way of participating in cryptocurrency. So in those interconnections between the tokens, normally in all the other blockchains, it's basically just whales who are the liquidity providers. So even in the real world, in the world of traditional finance, the people who make all the money is the people already with all the money. So they're the ones that are they're the ones that are providing the liquidity. So that'd be like the banks, for example. Whereas here, because anyone can just pick up some of these tokens and then provide liquidity between these two tokens, they're also getting some of the yield that happens between the trading of those two tokens. So for example, like myself, I'll have like, I don't know, like let's say 30 to 100 liquidity pools. So between all these different connections of tokens, any trading that happens between those, I'm getting yield off that. And so that also provides this whole new opportunity for people to invest and park their money as like a sustainable passive form of income. So I never intend on selling some of those things. I just intend on leaving them there for the foreseeable future as a passive source of income. And I don't need to take out the principal. I can just take out the yield that's coming from all those different yield opportunities, which is like a whole new way of doing cryptocurrency as well, because it gives the little man the power. Also, because of this, if cryptocurrency is really going to work, it's not at the moment. It's really just a degenerate casino where everyone's putting their real money in. So I take my Australian dollars, or you take your American dollars, you put it in, you competing against everybody else. Everybody else is putting in their American dollars. Then somebody at the top goes, bang, I'm going to take out all the American dollars and put it back into my American dollar bank account. It doesn't make cryptocurrency anything more than a bubble, because people are just inserting and then taking it out. Whereas this with Pulsechain, there's this whole ecosystem, this whole web where it's like this could actually create a new decentralized financial system where even in the bear market, people are going to keep their liquidity within the system. And that means that we can actually use it as a financial system separate from the traditional financial system. And that is what cryptocurrency should be about. So far, nothing has come even close to achieving that vision. And that's why I think also Pulsechain can be the number one, because it's the closest to actually being able to achieve that vision of keeping your money in a new system and being able to utilize that system, whether it's a bull market or a bear market. And that's the beauty of Pulsechain. And so then when you're getting all these people who become disenfranchised with all these other blockchains, because everybody's like this, there's 90 to 95% of people just lose all of their money. And so they become disenfranchised and they'll say crypto's a scam. But if they start to open their eyes up, and the Pulsechain community is so loud, we just need to keep being loud and showing them, hey, we actually have this thing over here, which is absolutely amazing. Then all those people who become disenfranchised start flooding into Pulsechain. That's my hypothesis. That's my thesis. So I really have this conviction that that's why Pulsechain is going to be the number one, because we actually are building this whole infrastructure of a decentralized financial system. No other blockchain is doing that.
Okay. I see so many more things. Thank you for that. I want to turn it over to you guys. Take a little pause. What questions do we have? Because that right there, like that's a record back, which I see that. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep my lips shut. Any questions do you guys have so far?
No questions, just I 100% enjoy and agree with that, because that's always been the thing that's like annoyed me and even just straight up pissed me off about crypto is just like, you're calling it like the next stage of finance, and like everybody keeps like pulling their money out and putting it back into wherever the hell they came from. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, what's the point in that? Like, you're just, like you said, it's just degenerate casino, and like really emphasize that with the advent of meme coins. I mean, that's really what it is now. And it's just like, yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I've been such a, devotee of all things Pulsechain, is because like, yeah, it's one of the few networks that actually shows not just promise of that, but actually is following through on it to a degree. And so yeah, it makes me happy actually hearing that, instead of just like, yeah, always just like, oh yeah, pour money in this, wait till it pumps, and then put it back into USD. It's like, that's exactly what I don't want the government to know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah. I also think one point that really stuck with me as you were saying this, Stephen, is the importance of the Pulsechain community is originally hexagons. And us hexagons really anchored in the fact, for any of you who are not aware yet, Hex is a crypto CD. It's like a certificate of deposit. So certificate of deposits, you would accrue about 5% per year. With Hex, you're accruing about 38% yield, which is crazy high and beautiful. And so Richard taught the community the importance of having time work for you and finding cryptos so that it's more strategy based. And it's understanding that we're investing in a community. It's not just like pop in, pop out, like we're here for a long haul. And so I think that's even where like I find a lot of our degen world is super sharp, and people are constantly like trying to understand and play with percentages and yield and the farming pools and liquidity providing, like in all different ways, so that they can keep their money in the Pulsechain world and keep on growing from that. So that's really sticking with me, where I'm like, oh, okay, like yes, there's volatility naturally, but like you were saying, how can we keep our capital in and then be able to pull off yield off the top to still pay ourselves?
Absolutely. And it's not like it's going to be, well, I see it being a transition, because it's also going to take years for this idea to mature. So if this is one of the first times that this idea can actually be implemented, where it creates like a possibility of, oh, I can keep my money in the system. If it presents that this bear market, then more people in the next bear market are going to want to keep it within the Pulsechain ecosystem if they see the evidence. Whereas now, I see the evidence, but we still haven't hit that stage. I could be completely wrong. And despite all this technology, people are still going to go, no, I'm going to take everything out. But I don't believe that's going to be the case, because there's so many ways that people have locked up their liquidity. And that's one of the things that really is, it's another idea that's kind of stemmed from Richard's philosophy about cryptocurrency, with locking up your hex. And basically what you're doing is, yeah, you're taking your value and you're locking it away, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to leave it there and let the time do its thing. And so now, with a whole ecosystem of tokens where you can also do that, you really can't do that. You can't become a liquidity provider on Ethereum. It's too expensive. The gas fees are too expensive, and you really need you need hundreds of thousands of dollars to make it worth it. Whereas with Pulsechain, you can do it with like $10. You can just go, all right, I'm going to put $10 into this liquidity pool on either side, and that's it. And you multiply that by whatever, 10, 20, 30. That's all you need to do. And you just leave it there and you just watch the numbers, and wow, this is actually working. Like after a year's time, this liquidity pool, the tokens, I put 100 tokens on either side, and now it's got 150 tokens here and 150 here. Wow, this is like magic. This is interest that is completely not, you don't get that interest in the real world. There's also businesses that are starting to be built on Pulsechain as well. People are really, like, it's really just attracting this whole it actually is really attracting this way of doing decentralized finance, because that's one of the things that Richard's really, really big on as a proponent, is decentralized finance. And yeah, just like Randy was saying, up until now, there hasn't been, it's just been a free for all. But really now it's like, oh, we actually are creating a decentralized financial system. So I think it's going to take time. There'll still be people that are taking liquidity out, but I think you'll be able to see on chain, instead of like every other chain, all the liquidity came out, maybe 95% of the liquidity came out. Maybe on Pulsechain, we might see, only 60 or 70% of the liquidity came out. So then all the people that kept their liquidity in there, somehow they'll end up being the bigger winners, because as people are taking their liquidity out, they have to go through all these pools. So all the people who keep their money in those liquidity pools as the providers, they're getting all that yield of people trading out of those assets. So then they're going to be the long-term winners. And then everybody else who took their money out is going to go, whoa, the better play would have been just to keep it in the system. So I do see it taking time. I don't think it's going to be like all of a sudden everyone's now just going to be like, we're living in Hexaco. It'll take time, but it really seems like the vision is inevitable.
Interesting. Okay. Can we pivot into the consciousness side of things?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So can you start off with trying to figure out where shall we even begin on this front? Let's start off with just Pulsechain collectively. How do you see the consciousness within Pulsechain? How is that expressed?
So it all starts from Richard. So whatever Richard's ideology is, his mindset. So I really believe that your mind attracts into your life what is in your mind. So if you have negativity in your mind, then you're just going to continue to attract negative situations into your reality. If you have positive things in your mind, you're going to attract positive things into your reality. Some people consider this to be like woo woo. I consider it to just be like scientific fact. And my life is just a testament to that. And I think anyone who has that perspective, that there's really you can't debate them out of that perspective, because they just see it happening in their world. And so from that perspective, because of the type of mindset that Richard is, what he has as a mindset, he has attracted to him other types of like-minded individuals, for example, like myself. And so because it started from Richard, and then it created this whole like nucleus of other people that are also like-minded, this nucleus of consciousness that started with Richard just continues to expand out. And because Richard is trying to actually do good for the world, he's also attracting other people who are actually trying to do good for the world. And so these other people who are actually trying to do good for the world are also attracting other people who are actually trying to do good things for the world. So because of that, because this is a place where we're trying to do good for the world, I believe that good for the world will happen through Pulsechain. That's the real meta for me, that it's the consciousness behind Pulsechain that's the real play. And then so when I started to hear people were talking about this liquidity web as like a neural network, I was like, oh, holy shit. Like we're on another level. We're on another level. And this is all, you have artificial intelligence coming out now. And it's that there's like this symbiosis between what's happening in artificial intelligence and what's happening on this blockchain. So yes, everything started with Richard and his positive mindset, his grateful mindset, trying to do good for the world. And really that's not to say that everybody in Pulsechain is like that, but as a community, I really see it as a whole. Like I also dabble in Basechain, and every single Telegram chat that I go into it's all the same. Everyone's just like, okay, let's go out there and pump this, pump this, pump this. Let's post it on Twitter and get everybody to talk about it. And so we can just pump. So there's just all these people who are basically trying to shout out into the world, hey, buy my shit so then I can sell on top of you. Whereas here, okay, yes, we want people to buy our stuff, but we're also actually trying to change the world. So there's people who are like, okay, well, for example, for myself, okay, what am I going to do with this money? That's the thing that's attracted me to Pulsechain. I want to be part of or help the world really evolve the mindset and develop this consciousness revolution that's happening on the planet and accelerate it. So what am I going to do with the money? I'm not interested in Lamborghinis. I'm not interested in mansions. I want to put it into like meditation centers and well-being centers and really like accelerate this process, because if I can help other people become more conscious and more aware, then they're also going to help other people become more conscious and aware. And so because there's all these people that are trying to do this on Pulsechain, again, it really gives it a unique flavor that's completely different to the other blockchains.
I really love what you were just saying of the part of, well, first off, yes to more meditation centers, yes to doing more good in the world. Like, yes, let's use our money as a tool. And I think Richard also really leads with this mentality too, where he took his 10 years of like playing around and like enjoying his money, and then being like, now I want to make something that is giving back to the world. I want to fix the financial system. And even I find that how he tweets as well, he's like signaling all of us in code of like when he's buying or selling, or like when certain bottoms are in, as long as we're like on his team and we can understand what he's saying, like via tweets. There's so much alignment in this ecosystem where I find if you can look for the consciousness, it's all just like sitting there, like right on the tip of your nose.
Totally. And the evidence, well, what emphasizes that evidence for me as well is the divisiveness of his nature as well. It's just like, because it's just energy, right? So Jesus was like the greatest man who ever lived, and yet he got crucified because people couldn't stand the positivity that he was putting out into the world, because their minds were so garbage, their minds were so negative, they couldn't even comprehend what he was saying. And it's the same thing as Richard. His frequency, his consciousness is so righteous compared to all these other people that they can't even they just, oh, he's a scammer, they can't even comprehend. So because there is this huge division between the people who are really on his team and the people who are not, it's like evidence for me as well that, like, oh, he's really onto it, because the divisiveness of his opinion is so strong. And so I just see that again as like it's just like math, it's just energy. So
Oh, interesting. Good point. Any questions, any comments coming up from everyone else? I also I have another question that I'm curious about, but I just want to check in with you guys. Nothing? Okay.
Appreciate the check-in, but no, I'm mostly just agreeing.
Cool.
It's just so nice to hear other people that are also doing that. Oh, sorry.
Okay, cool. So next question for you. We talk a lot about, like, I'm going to anchor back in, like, the importance, like, yes, we're like all of us are all conscious beings here and craving more consciousness in the world. But why do you think it's important to have conscious cryptos rather than it just being like, I know you touched on it earlier, but I even just want like a little more directness with this of like, when you're looking through all these cryptos and you're noticing even the consciousness levels of Base versus Bitcoin versus Ethereum versus Pulsechain, why is it important in the future going forward?
Because the universe itself is just emptiness and consciousness. That's God. So it's just energy and light, emptiness and consciousness, body and mind, mother and father. And so everybody's consciousness is just a derivative of the one consciousness. So the more that something is aligned with collective consciousness, which is the mind of God, then the more righteous it is, the more naturally prosperous it can become. So anything that has that kind of consciousness has an inevitability of success because it's doing the right things. It's like, World War II. What was it? The Manhattan Project. Good always wins in the end. And there was a team of people in America who were competing against the Russians or the Germans, and somehow they ended up winning. It's by the grace of God that they ended up winning. And if they didn't, then humanity would be over. So somehow this team ended up winning. The consciousness between that team ended up winning. So like that same kind of principle, that same kind of ethos within cryptocurrency. That's why also I feel like, yeah, crypto is inevitable, because the world that we have now of too much greed in the world has like saturated the whole world, and it's like it's strangling the world, it's killing the world. And so that's where crypto's birthed out of this like, no, it can't go on like this anymore. So then crypto was birthed after the 2008 financial system. And so anything now that captures onto this ethos and really starts to nurture this ethos and give birth to it is what's going to be the thing that wins. And so the consciousness, the mind behind it all is the most important thing. That's what created Hex. That's what created Pulsechain, the mind behind it, which was Richard Hart. And then the minds that he's attracted around it, the collective minds, is what's going to make it flourish and grow if it is in alignment with nature. Because the more that it's aligned with nature, the more that it's going to work, because it has no blockages and no hindrances.
Yeah. Consciousness equals alignment. That's just the thread all the way through. And the more aligned we are to the future, the more success, the more energy, the more money we attract, the more humans that also want to crave more of the consciousness and more longevity. I also find, just like in the crypto world, we've seen it of just how transactional people are and the lack of loyalty. And that's where you find the meme coins, and you find so many coins just pumping and dumping. I think it's cool that we do have a level of consciousness and energy that floats in the space and a solid community, so that there is a base. And yes, there's volatility, but that also allows a lot more growth to be had.
What you just said about the lack of loyalty as well, it's really kind of, it's a reflection of the state of the world as well. There's like this desire, this craving for people to be connected with each other. And so social media is like really, I guess there's this debate, but it's really kind of emphasized this point of like, okay, well, we've got these platforms where we're more connected than ever, but we also feel more separated than ever. So again, anything that kind of really nurtures this collaborative working together, being part of something, which is something that's really strong about cryptocurrency in the stock world. Oh yeah, okay, I own Apple, but who else owns Apple? I wouldn't have a clue. There's no like, I mean, there's going to be people who are talking about it on YouTube, yes, but there's not communities that are like devoted to it and working together and collaborating and having meetups. And I mean, there is, maybe that point is not so strong, but because people are really craving this connectivity, this is again another power of what I see to be part of cryptocurrency and Pulsechain more specifically as well.
Yeah, there's the community people are craving so much more. And we've seen this, I think all of us can resonate in different ways with it, but even like you're doing all your meditation stuff in person, which like people are just craving the growing, building together, the journey of life, personal development. There's this, we don't want to do things alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So as we're talking about money, building wealth, building and harnessing more of our own personal power, are there any things you do in particular to anchor in and to calibrate more levels of wealth?
Yeah, definitely. Meditation is something that I do a lot. So I run a meditation center. So, I mean, this is why for me, again, it's so matter of fact, because 10 years ago, before I started meditating, I would read, Think and Grow Rich. And then, okay, just keep telling yourself that you're going to get rich. But I couldn't implement those things. I couldn't. My mind was way too negative. So it didn't matter what I read. It didn't matter how many seminars I went to. I couldn't change my mind. And so through meditation, I've actually been able to change my mind because I've actually found a method where I can let go of the old self. So all that old programming that I had, there's a method now to actually let it go. It's not just people telling me, oh, just let it go. You don't have to be like that. Just think differently. I couldn't think differently. The programming of my mind of negativity was too strong. And so because I've been able to do that, all those things that I wanted to achieve in the past 10 years ago, I tried. I really, 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 really tried. And I became so depressed because I just couldn't do it. I would do it for like a week or two and then back to square one. It was like this elasticity between me trying to like push myself into the future, but then bang, my past self just keeps pulling me back. And so because of that, I was never able to accumulate any wealth whatsoever. Didn't matter what books I read. I would always have like this amount of money in my bank account, never anything more. Doesn't matter how hard I worked, doesn't matter what I did, it was always go back to square one. But through meditation and actually letting go of that programming, that's not me. Those ideas are not me. This conditioning of my mind of thinking that I'm like that is because of this instance of my life. And then that's just been repeated and repeated and repeated. And it's built up and blocking my prefrontal cortex and thinking that I'm that. So I keep letting go of what I think I am. And through that process, the universe is actually who I am. And so the universe is capable of anything. Anything that you put your mind to, you can achieve. The only thing that stops you is your own mind. This doesn't mean that all of a sudden, because I'm thinking like this, tomorrow I'm going to be a billionaire. That's also a process. And if I want to be a billionaire, I actually fundamentally believe I can achieve that. But it's going to take like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. There's a process for that too. And I have to work hard for it because there's no free lunch in the universe. You have to actually work for what you get. But because I'm actually able to now see wealth growing in my life through developing my consciousness, it's like, well, it's just you attract into your life what's in your mind. And as much as you want to have, as big as your mind is willing to accept, that's as much as you'll receive. If you have in your mind, well, I'll never be able to get $1 million, that's exactly what you're going to bring into your life. That's exactly and as much as you'll bring into your life. So, yes, because I've been able to transform my mind, like my whole wealth has changed completely. And running these meditation centers, I'm a full-time volunteer, and all my wealth is in cryptocurrency. So it also has its like its downsides, but I'm still looking into the long-term future. And just the very fact that even now, if I was to take out all my assets and convert it into Australian dollars, I'd have more money than like all my family put together. So I have no, yeah, it all comes down to your mind.
I really enjoy even just the reminder of like hard work. Like we still there's no free lunch. We still have to do our things, especially at this time. I find like now that we have the tools, now that we're all in the game, it's just a question, a reminder to ourselves, like what are our priorities? Where do we want to put our energy, our economic energy, our mental energy? What are we learning? How are we using it? Especially like, I mean, right now, the whole social media trap and like the whole game of like the life where everyone is like, get the luxury cars and all these luxury experiences. Like that's fine if that's what you want, but just also realize like it's been just a really nice reminder for me of like, what are your goals? What are your priorities? What are you building? What is the future that's being a part of? And all of us by being in community together, I think that for me, that's constantly been like a nice gut check of like, am I putting my energy, all of my energy, in alignment with what my goals are for my future self?
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to do the work as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Any comments, questions about consciousness, money, relationship, wealth building? I really love a lot of these things that you dropped in about just even like the energetics of building wealth. Um, it's so cool to see like the little, like for me, I just kept seeing like a little eraser, like scrubbing the prefrontal cortex, being like, "Rah, rah, we're just getting rid of that old programming, like sit in another meditation, please. Go back to work, please. Like align, 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 and then go out into the world and do."
Mm. It's definitely a challenge doing that. I'll tell you that much right now. I've been at it for a long time. It's not been easy, but it's been extremely worth it. And I watch people who undergo this process, and they'll get to the limit. So when I started this meditation, I had all these people that were doing it with me, and I've seen how I've continued to develop and they've stopped. So they'll get to the limit of their mind. Their mind will tell them, "Oh, this meditation is not for you," or "Oh, you can't go any further with this method," or whatever it is. That thought itself is the thing that's blocking you from going to the next stage. And I also have thought, I almost proudly say that I've thought more than anybody of quitting, because the difference between me and them is they actually quit. They listened to that ego, that false self in their mind, and said, "Well, this is not for me. I'm going to quit," and they left. But I didn't. I continue to acknowledge that is not the real me. I'm going to keep throwing that useless garbage into the trash because it doesn't exist, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep finding the real mind, the true mind that's in me. So more than anyone, I've thought about quitting. I'll tell you that much right now.
I think we can all relate to that feeling a lot. I like that you're still on the stage. Thought it a lot about, but you didn't give it the energy, the full power.
Yeah.
Any questions, any comments? Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed this chat with you, Stephen. And okay, wait, I didn't even ask you originally. This feels like backwards order. But when did you first make it into crypto? What brought you to crypto? I'm sorry that we're asking this at the very end, but I just context.
Yeah, that's okay. So crypto, I first got into it the end of 2 cycles ago. So the last cycle that ended was 2021, 2022. So I got in 2017, 2018. So that's when I first started hearing about cryptocurrency. That's when I first heard about Bitcoin. XRP was the one that I got into, and I bought the top. And so that was a very, very valuable experience. I didn't put a lot of money in. I just dabbled, because that's always been my perspective. It's like, okay, well, I got to put skin in the game to kind of learn about it. That's how I learn about it. And because I bought the top, it also taught me like how the global consciousness works with money. So we think that we're like this individual thing that's got all this it's kind of a contradiction. We think we're this individual thing that has all this control of my life, but as a collective we really operate. It's just math. It's I'll just pivot just very quickly just to kind of emphasize this point. There's this book that I read called The Social Atom, and it basically talks about how humans are collectively the same as what happens on a quantum level. So you'll get like groups of, there'll be like a trend in the world, and then in that trend there'll be like a counter trend to that. And then the counter trend is like so edgy that everybody here in this trend is like, oh, that's all crap. That's totally wrong. And then this counter trend, there'll be a few people here that are like just slowly getting attracted to this energy. So then the counter trend gets bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden this becomes the cool thing. And it's like, this is a universal thing that's happened throughout time. And even this little course that I did, this little 4-week course, the guy at the end was like, okay, so we had to do our homework at the end. He's like, doesn't matter how many people do this course, whether it's 3, whether it's 100, whether it's 1,000, there's always the same percentage of people who finish the homework. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter how I say it. There's always the same percentage of people. And I was like, I just keep seeing all these patterns in life where it's like, you know, the Pareto principle, all of these things. So in any case, that experience of buying the top taught me like how the world actually works. So what I want to do is I want to use that as a power, because I represented that frequency of humanity at that time that got into cryptocurrency right at the top. And I saw that same pattern happening in the last bull market, where everybody who said cryptocurrency is a scam. I worked on the wharf. I used to work on the wharf, and my uncle also worked there. Like, crypto's a scam. You shouldn't put your money there. You're going to lose it all. And then as we're getting more and more towards the top of the bull market, he would start to say things like, oh, he'd start to ask me about it. Oh, have you been seeing what's happening with Bitcoin? And then when we got to the top, pretty much he was like, I think I'm going to buy some Shiba Inu. And I was like, oh my God, that should have been my signal. Like, this is it. This is the world showing me like, this is where we are. So now I've been able to like really use that experience to really get a good measure of like, the world is giving you those signals. So you just be on Twitter, and when you see the euphoria, when you feel the euphoria in you, it's like, okay, it's probably the top now. It's probably a good time to start selling. If you really start feeling afraid, there's also other people that are feeling afraid. And what does that actually mean? Those people are selling. The ones who aren't afraid are the ones with so much money that it going down a little bit or a lot, it doesn't even matter. So they're not afraid. They're just like, okay, great, I'm just going to start buying more. So there's this like eternal cycle that happens that's fluctuating with human emotions. So being able to recognize it in yourself and then see it in the world has been like a real superpower. So yeah, bit of a sideways pivot there, but yes, getting in all those years ago taught me a lot, and then gave me a strategy going into the last bull market. And all I did was just buy when everyone was saying that crypto was dead at the very bottom. That's when I was buying. So I was able to turn like a very small amount into 7 figures. I wasn't able to keep that 7 figures because I hadn't mastered my mindset, because I also was not expecting to make 7 figures. It was like more money than I'd ever seen in my whole entire life. And it was on my birthday that I actually got the 7 figures. So it was like this whole like, yeah, it was just this whole like beautiful experience of like, okay, now this is a possibility. So now that's what my whole channel is all about. Like, it actually is possible. You just need to have the right kind of mindset. The reason why I couldn't keep it was because of my mindset. I had too much greed. It's like, I want more, I want more, I want more. And that's what everybody else also in the top of the cycle, I want more, I want more, I want more. Not being able to recognize it. That greed is when all the smart people who already have more than anyone else are going, okay, this is enough. I'll take it all out now. That's when you need to actually do it. So you're really using yourself as like as a gauge, using your feelings as a gauge, and kind of like going opposite to your feelings.
You said it so well. I so too felt trapped to that greediness, but it's like also such a beautiful reminder of like we need to experience that to have that emotional like milestone and like landmark to be like, oh, this is how we operate, this is how we tick. And this also shows capacity of how much of like me calibrating to the more levels beyond that as well, but how to go through that initiation to make it to the next level.
Absolutely.
Okay, amazing. This is so good. So good. Thank you so much for being here. Um, Final bit, touching back to Atropa and pDAI. So action items like or suggestions. You're so like Atropa, pDAI are two more safe things to be able to get exposure to within the ecosystem.
Yeah. So, am I able to share my screen at all? I
think so.
can.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I would have, sorry, I didn't even know. I probably should have brought this up a long time ago because it's a lot easier with visuals. So these three, so I used a thing called Dex Screener, and then there's an option where you set up multi-charts. So I set up a whole bunch of different charts, and this, yeah, don't get too like overwhelmed by it. This is something that's taken me like months to kind of calibrate to the way that I like. But the three core assets you could say that all the narrative is around is Atropa, pDAI, and Teddy Bear. So it's kind of like a good G-rated entry into the ecosystem is buying these three. These are like the core Atropa tokens. Then you have all these other ones which all move generally with the way that this is moving. I mean, you can see it here. I mean, look at the way Atropa has moved. Atropa has moved down. Dai has moved down. I mean, the charts are set up a little bit different. Teddy Bear has moved down. They all move very similarly. So there's also ones that are moving like slightly different. But just to keep it very simple and G-rated, these are the ones to really get into to start with. And then people, as they start to get more confidence in the ecosystem, they start to branch out into all these other kinds of tokens. So yeah, and there's literally just hundreds. So I like to have ones where, so here's, for example, TSFI and Atropa. So a lot of these I have them compared to Pulsechain, but that's like the next stage that I want to get to. I want to start setting up charts where I'm comparing the different tokens like, yeah, TSFI to Atropa. Or maybe I'll set up a chart where I want to see the relationship between BFF and, I don't know, TSFI or Teddy Bear and Atropa, just to see where you can find the opportunities. But as a very G-rated, these three are like the best. They're like the core ones that are the safest. They have the biggest narrative around them. So
awesome. Amazing. And you also have for anyone else who's vibing in the space and wants more, Stephen, you live stream beautifully, like so much information out there. And even I really enjoy how concise and how much energy you do put into your live streams to like take people on a journey that makes a lot more methodical sense. So if anyone is curious, I've also sent that in your emails as well. I'll drop that in the group chat as well, but it's just Coexistence Stephen on YouTube, X, Instagram, all the things. Anything else that you'd like to leave for some messages or any final takeaways or anything you'd like to share with the group? Anything that you're up to?
Only just, yeah, I mean, if you are curious about the Atropa ecosystem, then I would definitely recommend just starting small, get comfortable with it, start learning about it, because it is quite deep. It's like, especially if you're new into cryptocurrency, it can be a little bit overwhelming because there's all these different tokens. And even myself, I mean, this is my third cycle, but I still felt a little bit overwhelmed. And it's taken me months to get comfortable with it. But just like anything, the deeper it is, the more you learn about it, the more strength behind the idea there is, in my opinion. So yeah, just dabble, learn, investigate. I've got a whole playlist, so I set up all my playlists and just, yeah, I try to do it as logically as possible. And I've set up a playlist where it's basically just hopefully as ordered to kind of build that story in your mind, something that's taken me months and months and months to learn. So yeah, don't um don't be upset if it's like a bit difficult to start with, because that's kind of how it was also designed as well, because they want people who are like really understanding the blockchain and understanding crypto on a deeper level. They want to attract people who are not the degenerates, not that are just going to come in and take liquidity out. They want people who are like understanding it and going, oh, right, if I keep it here, I can, this is a good long-term play. And that's actually building it, helping it build like the network behind it as well. So yeah, if it's hard, no problem. Just give yourself some time. It's taken people months, and I've been looking at it for, gosh, 8, 9 months now, and still like, I feel very confident, but also like there's still things that I don't know. I have no idea about. So yeah, it is difficult, but it's very rewarding in my opinion, because I think in the future there's going to be, I think it's so profound that in the future there's going to be like, you're either doing cryptocurrency in this way, which the Atropa ecosystem has set up this new standard for how cryptocurrency should be, or you're not going to be doing it that way. And if you're not doing it that way, you're going to get left behind. This is like the new standard. And we're so ahead of the game that nobody even knows what's going on yet. No other influencers know anything about it in outside of Pulsechain, but even the influencers within Pulsechain don't even really know what's going on. So it's really like giving me the conviction that, oh, we're really on the right track.
Yeah. It's yeah. There's so many patterns. We all know life is moving so fast, but I even like you've peeled back a lot of layers for me in this as well. Like there was a lot of things I was unaware of. So it's just so cool to see how like the future of crypto, the future of how more decentralization can work, and also how networks and ecosystems can work in a more powerful and potent way together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much again, Stephen.
Thank
Really,
you.
really appreciated you. I think everyone else did. It sounded like things landed really, really well. Um, so yeah, yeah, that's all I have for today. Thank you guys all for coming, and I think that's all I have. You guys are going to get a biweekly email too of market updates, a little recap of what's been going on in the crypto world for the most part. But other than that, that is all I have for today. Thank you so much, Stephen. So much thanks. We should just be live streaming on YouTube as well pretty soon as well.
Definitely.
I would love that. I feel like we could definitely drop into a lot more around money mindset and more of the wealth conversations as well, because we're in that period. We're still in the in between cycle where it's like now's the time for the mindset work.
Totally. And yeah, our connection will only get stronger for sure. Like after this cycle, we're going to have the evidence to back up everything that we were saying. So that's going to be the power, because there's a lot of people who are talking about how good crypto is, but they're still not going to make it. And I can't sit here and say that I've made it, because I actually haven't yet. So yes, my position is very strong, but it's the time, and that's the receipts where it's like, okay, yes, what we're talking about with mind actually does work. So it's always a pleasure, Whitney.
Yep. Okay, great. Well, I will catch you soon. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Take care. See you, Randy.
Thank you. See you, man.